to Odyssey Podcast.
All right, and we're back. Back once again. It's been a minute. I believe it's
What's
this
up?
one. Yeah. Hope you guys can hear that. We've been back for a minute. Last time we were trying to stream, but we had some technical difficulties coming in. Software wasn't ready to handle the new stream service that had to start doing. But thanks to my girlfriend, got a new desktop. She gave me hers,
Yeah, that shit's lit.
and so
I really like it. This is fancy. This is all you.
Yeah.
This is you.
this
This
is
is
a
you.
little setup. Set up a little spotlight up there to give us some more light, because just in case we were pretty dark. And
Beautiful pale skin.
also
That is really bright though.
set up
Looks good. Looks great in here. Really livens up the place.
yeah. So it's nice. We'll see this. I'm still getting used to this new. I'm using Streamlabs now. Went from Twitch Studio, so using Streamlabs, and hopefully I can master it and move up and get better and better. And I got some overlays that I've downloaded, and we'll see how that goes farther down the line. I'll be messing with it as we go.
Yeah,
But-
you do that, Berta. Mess with it.
You guys didn't see, but we actually spun a wheel about a few topics that we want to go ahead and discuss, and it actually landed in Hollow Earth theory or Inner Earth theory. I might have mistyped it in, but we're gonna go ahead and take a gander at a video regarding the Hollow Earth theory.
Let us
and
learn.
the other worlds that the old
Let us
people
be
used to talk about.
brainwashed.
So we'll see. Let's dive into this iceberg and see what we find out.
Dive into the hole.
Yeah, let me turn the volume down because this
How
might
deep-
be
how deep
a little bit
does this go?
loud.
Literally and non-literally.
It was pretty deep.
Rabbit hole deep.
Yeah.
Bitch.
To another episode of Decoding the Unknown. As always, I am your decoder, Simon Wamsey, one of my writers, in this case, Ilza. Thank you, Ilza. Writes me a script. She's put together today, The Secrets of Agartha. Never heard of this. I have no idea what this is about. That is, of course, the format of this show. I have a fat old script in front of me, and I have no idea what's going to happen. Maybe you don't either, and we're going to go on a wonderful exploratory journey together. So let's get started. I have a pretty amazing job. You got another job, because it's not this one, Elsa. I write for an Unsolved Mysteries channel. Oh, it is this job. That's nice. So every time I sit down to write a script, I realize that I have to suspend my disbelief in order to tell a good story. I approach every project with the goal of finding some truth, and mostly I succeed. Most mysteries have some logic behind them. Admittedly,
All
you
right,
might
sorry,
need to
guys,
do the
might have been a
Macarena
little bit
upside
too
down like a
loud.
drunken bat hanging from the roof of a dark cave to see the logic,
Let's
but
skip
it
this a
is
little bit.
often there. So, I apologize in advance. The idea of Agartha is enticing, and there are certainly some interesting snippets, but the majority of this very solved mystery I'm about to present to you has very little logic behind it. Instead of just suspending my disbelief, I have to pack it in a heavy suitcase and drop it down a very deep well. I suggest, dear listener, that you do the same, so let's get to it. Oh my god, I struggle to do this. I know, and I'm reading this and I'm like, oh no, Ilza's like, I feel like this is a subtle criticism of me, because whenever I read these, I'm like, no. So it's like the aliens came, no, the ghosts, no, no demons. There's no, it's not real. The closest we get to demons are the people that I feature on my other podcast, The Casual Criminalist. In the spring of 1829, a Norwegian fisherman and his son Olaf set out to find the lands beyond the north winds. The further north they went, the stranger the journey became. The many icebergs they encountered were expected, of course, but soon their compass no longer worked. The needle just pressed up against the glass. To make matters worse, they got caught in a storm. After several hours of their small boat being tossed about like a child's toy, the water finally calmed, and in the distance, they saw a small reddish sun. Whenever I hear about boats on choppy waters, I feel like it just reminds me of... I'm generally fine on boats, calm seas, doing great. It gets a little bit choppy, that boat starts moving around, I'm gonna be sick. Like, I don't get car sick, I don't get plane sick, I don't get anything sick. Everywhere. I remember once, I can't remember where it was some boat that took us, like, curled up, ever hour got bigger until they realized it wasn't only real, it was a planet of some sort. So they sailed on. Oh, God, it was such a bad time. Initially, they shrugged it off as a mirage, but as they sailed on, the sun became bigger until they realized it wasn't only real, it was a planet of some sort. Onwards, they sailed until finally they spotted land. They anchored in a river and went ashore. But none of it made sense. A green, tropical island in the far north. However, if they thought things could not get any stranger, they were...
Where did he say this is supposed to be?
Antarctic. They were up in Antarctica, up north.
Olaf was in Antarctica?
Yep.
were wrong. While gathering nuts, they heard singing and a ship came into view. They watched in amazement as the ship came towards them and 12 giants disembarked, 12 feet tall, friendly and curious. The singing giants invited the fisherman and his son on aboard their ship, and so began a visit to the lands of giants that would last for almost 2 years. This is a fictional story. This is obviously not real, but because this is an episode of Decoding the Unknown, there are truly people out there who believe that this is not some old story / myth, which it clearly is. Olaf and his father spent their time well. They learned all about the giants, their language, similar to Sanskrit, culture, their customs. They learned that the giants were a good-natured musical race with an average lifespan of 800 years. The giants took them on trips, not the acid kind, though I kind of understand why you might think that, rather to show them the advanced technological wonders of their world, and they revealed an amazing secret. The Earth is hollow. Oh, this is a hollow Earth story. I like this. Here we go. This is well-trodden familiar territory for this channel.
He does have
the
a
Earth
nice
being
head.
hollow.
I agree.
When obviously it's not. It's really solid. I mean, there's maybe some caves in it, but that's about it. And I don't mean like down in the
There's been a trend happening with older men going just straight bald and growing a beard. I've noticed that in a lot of older celebrities and shit watching movies lately. There's been a lot of fucking bald-headed people with beards now.
Well, that's gonna be me in probably like 10 years.
10 years?
I'd say so.
I give you a good, like 25 years before you lose your hair.
Nah, I mean, I think my dad started balding in like 40.
That'd be it. When are you gonna turn 40?
I know I won't have the same
15
locks
years?
at 40.
20 years?
Nah, either I regrow it now or I just commit and just shave.
Nah, don't commit and shave. Yeah, keep it strong.
Sometimes, I get the intrusive thoughts, like, what if I just shave it, like, what if I just buzz it? Like, you ever just get the urge, just like,
Put
fuck it,
put all that there's like avocado
and then just laugh about
oil.
it, and then just be like, fuck it, and then just walk around.
Put coconut
Cool.
oil all in your head.
But I can't shave my beard though. I would just shave my head.
Yeah.
No, I would. I don't know. I don't know the guy underneath this.
center, I mean like close to the surface. It's not hollow though. It's really not. It's full of magma and shit.
Switch to Chrome to protect yourself
Have
from
you ever
malware,
seen Magma?
so you can surf without getting phished.
Nah.
Olaf and his father had entered through one of the openings in the North Pole. The waters
The
of
North
the ocean
Pole.
flowed into this opening and continued on the inside,
That's where
held to the
Antarctica is,
underside
right?
of the
North
Earth's
Pole.
crust by the laws of gravity. Because throwing a little bit of
What the hell did you say?
Antarctica's in the North Pole.
South Pole.
Antarctica's in the South Pole.
Yes.
Oh, well, these motherfuckers are in the North Pole. Then my bad. I told you they were in Antarctica. I thought at the South Pole.
There really is no like land mass that's like the North Pole though. Unless you're talking about like Greenland or Iceland. Might be Iceland. I don't know. But there really
Isn't Iceland down by Australia?
What? Bro, you got your maps flipped.
Where's
New
Iceland?
Zealand
New
is
Zealand.
down by Australia.
Oh, okay.
No, Iceland is up by like there's you know how there's like North
I-
America
I-
and then you got like Europe,
That's
like
Greenland.
England, but you have Greenland and Iceland. Greenland is the big one that's full of ice, and Iceland is the little one that's all green. They're
Yeah.
flipped.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember
Science
looking
goes
at
a
the
long
map
way.
and being like, why this one's white, this one's green? Shouldn't the names be backwards? But no, they were flipped.
trick.
That's how I remember.
It's a trick they did so
I
that
remember.
other people wouldn't go and live where they were at. Huh.
To prove that you know what you're talking about. Well, you obviously don't, because gravity doesn't work in opposite directions, does it? It's not like, oh yeah, no, as well as falling, I also could just jump up infinitely into the sky, because gravity also works the other direction. Of course it doesn't. That's insane. There's only one continent, and in the center of the Earth, a single sun provided the giants with all the warmth they could ever need. During a visit to the capital, a lush garden city called Eden, the very same Eden Adam.
So now they're in the whole other.
Now they're in the Garden of Eden.
No, not. They didn't say they're in the Garden of Eden. They're saying in the place that they resemble the Garden of Eden. But this is the land of giants now. They were talking about there's giants here in this land, this new land that they're on. So now we got giants to fucking.
But where did they get this? Where is this land?
They sailed up north.
How did we get here?
They
Oh,
sailed.
well,
They sailed up north, trying to go to the North Pole, and then they went through some really rough waters. And in the morning, they saw a red sun, so they just followed it, and
that was all that.
it looked like it was a portal. Yeah, homie, shit. Where you been?
Yeah,
It looked like it was a portal, and they
Here, but
went
not
through, and they ended up, or it looked like a sun, so they followed the sun, and they went through it, and they ended up in this other land. And there's giants here that they've been, it says 2 years that they've been communicating, or I don't know, they spent 2 years there, or it was just 2 years of going back and forth.
Adam and Eve got kicked out of, they met the high priest, the ruler of this fantastical world. The two fishermen spent some time with the high priest, telling him all about the world outside. They were invited to tour throughout the realm as much as they wished, and tour they did. However, after 2 years, they decided they'd had enough of the good life and wished to return to the surface. The journey would be dangerous, they knew, but they attempted it anyway. The journey, this is a nice story. I'm enjoying this story. It reads like a story that I'd read my kid in the evening. It's nice. The journey was successful, and they managed to return to the outside world, but sadly Olaf's father died, and Olaf himself got stranded on an iceberg. Luckily, he was rescued and returned to civilization. Upon returning home, he told everyone about his amazing voyage to the center of the earth and was promptly admitted to an asylum. No surprises there, was he really?
God damn it! Right away, you come back with some knowledge, and all of a sudden, people think you're crazy. Like that's what sucked back in the day. You had to think so small, like anything thinking big, like science wise or anything like that, like got you put straight in the mental asylum.
Yeah, I just don't think it was very easy to spread that kind of knowledge around.
Well, not people
You
couldn't
know.
believe that because people were still really in the
Close-minded.
whole, not just close-minded, but their whole belief was in religion. And in religion, you know, they can't. This doesn't really coincide with those religious beliefs, so it's not something that they can easily believe. So, loony bin.
It's going. Yeah, no, dude, that's not real. What are you up to? You were on that iceberg so long, somehow surviving for 2 years, that you've literally gone fully insane. You've just gone absolutely batty. Once he got out, he returned to the life of a fisherman, never said another word about his adventure, and finally retired to California. It was only, 1800s? I guess so. I'm not sure. My American history's not that good. When was California? When was that period where they all went west? The gold rush? I feel that was the 1800s, right? It was only on his deathbed that he told the story one last time to his friend and neighbor, novelist George Willis Emerson. And let me guess, George Willis Emerson published a story which we just heard all about.
No, he's got a point.
Emerson, an American novelist, immediately set pen to paper and wrote The Smoky God, or Voyage to the Inner World, which was published in 1908. He swore that it was a true account as told to him and not a work of fiction. So, did Olaf Jansen travel to a secret world and meet some musical giants, or was Emerson a far better novelist than he seemed to realize? Let's delve into the secrets of Agartha and see if we can find an answer to that question. I already know the answer. He wrote a story. Also, it could be bad. If it's published as a work of fiction, just entirely as a work of fiction, then it's like, okay, this is just not very good. It's just kind of a descriptive story, a boring story about a dude who goes into the center of the earth and meets a high priestess. There's no stakes. There's no story. There's no hero's journey. There's just a description of the inner earth. But if you say it's all fact, people are going to be much more interested, like that Da Vinci Code book. It's like all based on fact. It's like, is it though, Dan Brown? Is it really, Dan? Because it doesn't seem like it is, Dan. Does it, Dan? Welcome to Agartha. So, what exactly is Agartha? Well, that's going to depend on who you ask. There are as many versions of the tale as there are storytellers to tell them, and you really can't rely on science because, as we all know, the government is in control of all academic institutions, and those guys simply cannot be trusted. Yes, people truly believe this. The Flat Earth people, that's a much more popular one. People actually believe this stuff. All around the world, they believe this stuff. Crazy.
It's finna be crazy.
Contrary to what science will have you believe, the Earth is in fact hollow. The Earth's crust is around 800 miles, that's around 1,200 kilometers thick, and at each pole there's an opening around 1,400 miles, that's 2,200 kilometers across. I think we'll be able to see that on Google Maps, to be honest. That's a big hole. The edges of these openings gently curve from the outside of the Earth's shell to the inside. That means that a ship, or I suppose a swimmer, if they were so inclined, could travel from the outer sea to...
Quick side note, I don't know, I just thought of this right now when you said about the schools, or when he said about the schools. My first experience, like when I realized that the school is like a lot of information, was in 7th grade when I did a history report on Christopher Columbus. Like all of the kids in our class got a historical figure, and I got him. And I did a whole report thinking he was like cool, and then until you told me that he was like a whole murderer and rapist and fucking just a conqueror, and I did not want to do that report anymore. Honestly, I did not want to report it, and then I kind of said that in my report, and the teacher got mad at me.
They don't want to believe the facts.
She got mad at me.
That's exactly how it happened.
I got in trouble for it.
Hey.
But the poster was cool. I made a ship out of a cereal box.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, they don't want to talk about that and go all into details and all into
and
how it really
grade.
happened.
Yeah, I was 12 years old.
Yeah,
the truth.
Insane, crazy.
To the inner sea without realizing it. Of course, the fact that the South Pole is a continent, Antarctica, which is roughly the size of the US and Mexico combined, and the North Pole ice cap is frozen all year round, means that very few sailors or swimmers combined, and is a continent, Antarctica, outer sea to the inner sea without realizing it. Of course, the fact that the South Pole is a continent, Antarctica, which is roughly the size of the US and Mexico combined, and the North Pole ice cap is frozen all year round, means that very few sailors or swimmers will
so it's an
get
ice
near
cap.
The opening. But don't expect too much logic in this episode. While pilots claim to fly across the North Pole all the time, none of them have ever seen this opening because the fools that they are, they follow their compass and other instruments, which in turn are following the magnetic rim of this opening to the inner Earth. Instead of flying across the pole, which is centered in the middle of a really big hole, they're flying around it. However, should you ever come across this opening in your travels, if you're willing to brave the ice, hungry polar bears, below freezing temperatures, and adorable penguins, congratulations, you found the entrance to Agartha.
Hello. Hi. Welcome.
This makes no sense. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, I can understand why people could be fooled by this in the past, because there's not a lot of evidence to the contrary, even though there's no evidence for it either. But nowadays it's like, what? Okay, so all the academic institutions are bought off, and so's Google Maps and all the other mapping companies and every company that owns a satellite that can take pictures of the Earth. It's like, come on. It's just nowadays we should be bigger than this. We should be beyond this. Our big brains should be able to handle the fact that the Earth is not hollow. There seems to be some confusion about whether Agartha is a country or a city. Some stories claim
the Earth can be hollow. Do you know that certain planets aren't even solid? They're just complete gas. They're
Mhm.
giant balls of gas. So if you try to land a spaceship on them, it will just go through, and
Mhm.
they're like no solid. So if
Yeah.
there's a planet that's like that, can't there be a planet that's solid on the outside and hollow on the inside, and or enough to where there can possibly be another world happening in inner Earth?
Maybe I think of like when it's like those gas planets. I think it's just like a bunch of meteorite or just a cluster of meteors like holding that
Mm-hmm.
gravitational pull together. So it's not really solid, but it's not it's not full. It's just you go through it. You're able to go through it. That's how I picture it. I don't just picture a gas cloud.
Because they also just found this giant ass cave system that goes like hundreds of miles inside the Earth out in Taiwan or Philippines or something, somewhere out there. This crazy ass uh, cave system that has like this whole other jungle and rivers and like just a whole other area. It's a whole other jungle inside of a cave, and the cave is enormous, like fucking huge.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty sure shit like that exists up here. Then there's a possibility that in certain areas of the earth, I mean, other civilizations already were talking about uh, portals and shit. There's a lot of hieroglyphs in ancient cultures with portals pictures of people traveling through portals and getting to different planets or lands as they would call it. So that's I mean, if ancestors and
I mean,
ancestors
fiction
believed
has
it,
to come from some sort of truth, right?
exactly. Not all of it was a lie. It's like probably like 50-50. Some of the exaggerated shit is probably the lie, but like the most inner deep things that probably sounds unbelievable is what the truth is.
Um, you know how it said that air like airplanes fly over the Arctic cap all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's not like it shouldn't be like that true. Or I mean, unless they're doing long ass flights, but I feel like it would be just so big anyways because planes don't go that far off like the Earth to go to cross the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like unless they're just going over the edge of the cap.
Yeah, it says that they fly around it.
Because it's like if you go over, because if you flatten out the top,
Mm-hmm.
it's big, it's big as
Yeah.
fuck, and that's a lot of water. So it's like going from what from Canada to Antarctica. You're telling me that's like you're not like that's where you're gonna reach, right? If you're going straight, you're gonna hit Antarctica, right?
Essentially, yeah, that's how it should work.
Isn't
If
that,
we're-
isn't
if
that
we're
crazy?
round,
Isn't that
yeah.
ridiculous?
Yeah.
and then for like the moon, I feel like the moon isn't that far from the Earth either, and like how if the moon shots are real and how it's like curved, I feel like the moon, if like if this is the no, like if this is the Earth, I feel like the moon is like my finger and it's like rotating, and it's like this far, and we really think it's this far, so it's a lot closer. So you don't see like the curve of the full Earth. Do you get me?
In a way, yeah, kind of.
I don't know. This is just my thoughts. I feel like that would just make sense to me in a way.
I can't fully picture it, but I kind of understand what you're going for.
Because I can't tell. I still can't tell if it's round or flat. That's still the
Yeah.
big mystery, because we don't know how far essentially the moon really is,
And-
or even farther than that.
And
Because
the way that the airliners fly across countries or
They use flat
international
maps.
travel, if you follow the traces from point A to point B on a global map, it doesn't make any sense.
yeah,
But when you open it up and you lay it out flat, the way that the path would travel makes so much more sense, and especially if they have layover flights and they go from point A to B to
It's
C
a lot
to D.
much closer, right?
Like you can just tell that on a flat map, it just makes the most common sense compared to as if it was round, because
Yeah.
then it would just look, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
And it would have you flying sometimes straight over the ocean, but like where you should be flying over the ocean, but you're over land.
Mm-hmm. That's weird.
Yeah.
And that
I forgot
Agartha
where we
is
were.
the land found in the inner earth, and Shambhala is its
fucking
capital
sailed.
city. And remember that name because we're going to get back to that later.
Agartha?
Shambhala, while others claim that Agartha
So there's the entrance between the north and the south side, the south poles, and I don't
That to
know.
me just looks like North and South America, bro. Honestly.
Look, and
And
then
then the entry at the bottom of the
it
top.
also shows other different maps that lead into the inner earth from
Like
different-
portals, like how you said.
different portals that go inward.
Entry.
This is where Godzilla travels through.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. I thought maybe we got a notification or something. But I didn't see nothing pop up.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Well,
so
thank you
Look,
for
and they
whatever
even
that
have a
was.
sun. They even had a sun inside.
Over the top or in the middle? Like it's
In-
on top or it's on the earth.
Oh, that's a good question. What's the depth between the sky and, dude? That's crazy. Yeah. Let's
I guess
see.
if you put it in that perspective, right? That's really if it's flat, so that would be the sun on top.
Yeah.
Or is that the core? I mean, does it even say sun? No, We're just
We
we're
can't
just
see.
assuming it's the sun.
But it's also, it's not. It's supposed to be a black sun, I think.
What the fuck? Black suns.
That's crazy.
is the city. More contemporary theories refer
Moons?
to the Agartha
Moons?
network, claiming that this inner realm consists of a great many cities. Well, that would make sense because it's going to be really
Would a
big.
black sun
If
be
it's
a
on the
moon?
inside of the Earth, it's going to be the same size as the outside of the Earth. And that's a lot of space. The Earth's really big.
It's a very big bun. Big fluffy bun.
Either way, it's in the center
Big
of the
buns.
Earth, and it's not just inhabited. If all the stories are to be believed, it's downright crowded with thousands or even millions of inhabitants. Well, it wouldn't be very crowded then, because what, like 8 billion people live on regular Earth? And
Can Stonyfield organic yogurt with high quality ingredients and no harmful pesticides save the world? Maybe.
and it's not that. I mean, there's a lot of people, but it's not that crowded. There are places you go, it's like there's nobody for miles. This is cool. The underground civilization is linked to all the continents with a network of tunnels, some natural and some created by the residents of Agartha. If you don't feel like plodding around the poles, there are other entrances to Agartha across the world. The Mammoth Cave in Kentucky and the Shasta Mountain in California, the base of the Great...
Shasta Mountain in California. You know, there's so many. We should add the Shasta Mountain to the spin wheel, because there's a lot of theories regarding the Shasta Mountain. Like,
Bro,
there's a
we
lot
should
of-
just go there.
That's insane. Dog. You're trying to
Essentially.
go missing?
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's just like a hike up a mountain, Shasta Mountain.
Yeah, it's a giant ass.
We'll take a little hike, quick little
Federal
expedition.
park, federal state park.
I'm
Something
pretty
like
sure
that.
you can climb it,
Yeah, you
like
can-
Mount Everest.
Yeah, it's not
It's a
as big
small
as
mountain.
I mean, it's still big, but not as big as Mount Everest.
We out.
Great Pyramid of Giza, of course, Manaus and Mato Grosso in Brazil, Iguazu Falls
So
on
these
the
are what,
border
portals?
of Brazil and Argentina, Mount Epomeo in Italy, the Himalayas in Tibet, beneath the border between China and Mongolia, which in my opinion is a bit vague, Rama in India, and King Solomon's Mines. Of course, you'd have to find the mines first, which means you'd solve 2 mysteries instead of 1, so good on you! These entrances are a well-kept secret unless you have Google, and they're guarded by initiates sworn to secrecy. Apparently, somebody didn't get a memo.
Did you see the memo about this? Yeah.
The inhabitants of the inner earth are superior beings, far superior to us mere surface dwellers. They possess superior technology, are intellectually far ahead of us, and have reached a level of spiritual enlightenment we can only dream of. Of course, they can't share this with us because they are morally obliged not to interfere with other cultures, sort of like the Prime Directive of Star Trek. And well, Enterprise captains have a history of trampling all over the Prime Directive on the odd occasion. Yeah, happens all the time. But what about the Prime Directive, Captain? We have to ignore the Prime Directive on this one, Lieutenant. All the time. All the time. And sometimes they'll do it and they just won't even mention it. And it'll be like, it's not top of mind when you're on a spaceship exploring space about the Prime Directive of not interfering with alien cultures. And they're just like, let's interfere. I saw a great one. It was comparing Stargate to Star Trek. And it was like, Star Trek, don't interfere with alien cultures. Stargate, let's go fuck up some alien cultures and steal their shit. But these benevolent subterranean dwellers have more self-control than the Enterprise captain. They also keep tabs on us, though, and if the need arises, they'll warn us to change our ways, as they've done many times in the past. And should we insist on annihilating ourselves, well, they're going to pick up the pieces. Of course, some believe that our benevolent subterranean guardians are, in fact, our rulers. We are ruled by the King of the World, who is in direct contact with the Dalai Lama in Tibet. The Dalai Lama has never admitted to this. Well, at least someone knows how to keep a secret. As for the citizens of this amazing land, there are plenty of origin stories. Some claim that they're giants. Another tale, known as the Shaver Mystery, tells of two races, the benevolent Teros and the evil Deros. That's short for detrimental robots, by the way. Brilliant. Yet others claim that the inner earth dwellers are the slaves that were left behind when the original inhabitants left the planet. In these tales, they like to torture humans and often kidnap surface women. However, most seem to agree that the wonderful people of Agarth.
So we were cave people, and the original people of this land left us, and we just kind of just like came out of the caves. That's what he's saying. Is that what he said?
The original people were slaves to so humanity was created by the Anunnaki to be their slaves so that they can create pyramids, which were technically some kind of technological industrial kind of place that
But they were energy sources.
One of them was like an energy source, and the other one was used to like mine gold, to like melt gold or whatever, because that's what they were here for essentially, was to mine gold. So
I'm gonna rewind it just a little bit. I'm gonna play that back. I want to hear it again.
Arguments that were left behind when the original inhabitants. Yet others claim that the evil Deros, that's short for detrimental robots, by the way. Brilliant. Yet others claim that the inner earth dwellers are the slaves that were left behind when the original inhabitants left the planet. In these tales, they like to torture humans and often kidnap surface women. However, most seem to agree that the wonderful people of Agartha are originally from Simon's favorite place, Atlantis. It's not my favorite place because it doesn't exist. And if it does exist, it's not some magical floating super island. It's just a place that was sort of lost to history.
He just said it's not real.
The people of Atlantis were so far ahead technologically that they ended up destroying themselves with a nuclear war. Whether they were fighting among themselves or fighting the Lemurians is still up for debate. However, some of these survivors, led by one Noah, and you might recognize that name from a story about a big boat, fled first to Brazil, at that point a colony of Atlantis, because, well, of course it was, where they built subterranean cities to escape all of the radioactive fallout and the flood caused by the melting of the polar ice caps. All right, this is getting elaborate. These cities were linked with each other and the outer world with a network of tunnels. Learning a valuable lesson, they created a peaceful and advanced civilization and decided not to bomb themselves into oblivion again. A wise decision, in my opinion. From these survivors of Atlantis came the wise, technologically and morally advanced civilization that still lives in Agartha to this day. At the time they destroyed themselves, Atlanteans already had the technology to build flying machines, but that they still use to keep an eye on us up on the surface. We call them UFOs, and they don't come from outer space, they come from inside the Earth. No, they come from neither of these places. They come...
that's a really good theory right there. Never heard that theory before.
What was it?
That Atlanteans still exist, and they travel up up from inner Earth to the surface to keep an eye on human civilization and how far along we're coming, to make sure that we're not gonna nuke ourselves again. and
So basically, same thing.
instead of
Aliens,
aliens,
state
it's
of
them.
aliens, just from the inside.
Yeah.
They're coming from inside.
It's an
from outside.
advanced civilization that's making sure that the lower intellectual civilizations don't blow themselves up like they did way back then.
Yeah. I mean, I heard the same. Yeah. Just inner Earth beings.
Yeah.
Come from like secret military bases. Come on. After the atomic bombs were dropped in 1945, the Atlanteans came to the surface once again to prevent another nuclear disaster destroying the planet. No disaster ever occurred, so, well, good job them. Of course, it's not just the survivors of Atlantis living in Agartha. Some speculate that the Mayans also moved into the inner world, which explains their sudden disappearance. I find this tale particularly interesting since there are many descendants of the Mayan people living in South America to this day. I suspect the author of this particular article was thinking of the Inca civilization, but their disappearance wasn't entirely sudden or unexplained either. I'm fairly sure the Spanish might have had something to do with that. Yes. The whole conquistador thing. Alternatively, the inner Earth is inhabited by descendants of Lemuria, a continent first proposed in 1864 by zoologist Philip Schlater. What is a zoologist doing suggesting that there might have been another continent? You're a zoologist. Stick to what you know, mate. Come on. Which also mysteriously disappeared. An entire continent disappeared. That could never happen. What's it going to do? Melt away? Some Native American and Inuit tribes claimed that their people originated from inside the Earth, but
Someone is killing Jedi. It doesn't make sense.
I couldn't find any sources to confirm whether this is truly the case or whether this is just another instance of a tale twisted by hollow Earth believers to fit their narrative. Either way, the center of our planet is apparently a melting pot of cultures. Where does the idea of a subterranean world come from? While it may have different names among different cultures, the idea of an underground city or civilization of some kind inhabited by people of superior intellect or with magical abilities is not really new. In many ancient tales, the world is considered to be the world of the Fae. King Hurla, an ancient Briton king, attended a dwarven wedding that lasted 3 days. When he returned to the surface, he found that 3 centuries had passed. His lands had been occupied and his people were driven out by the Saxon horde. There's also the tale of Sir Thomas Ercildown, a Scottish lord and poet who was enchanted by the fairy queen and became her lover for 7 days. Upon his return, 7 years had passed, and as a reward for staying with her, or perhaps as compensation, Thomas the Rhymer, as he was known, was given the gift of prophecy. One night, while dining with friends, 2 white deer came out of the forest. These stories from the past are just wild. It's like my kid telling a story, and then this happened, and then
like
this happened, and
Demon
then this
Slayer.
happened, and then this happened. It's like,
Yeah.
it's not making sense. You completely lost it. Then this
I kind
happened.
of want
It's
to
like,
fast forward to the good part.
You've completely lost the plot. It was never seen 91 on May the 14th. Reverend Robert Kirk became another victim of fairies taken to their underground realm in punishment for collecting stories and secrets about the Fae around his parishioners in Aberfoyle. In the words of my favourite author, Terry Pratchett, the Fae are wonderful, for they inspire wonder, and they
He's
are
just reading
terrific
off of-
for the terror they inspire. Moral of the tale, don't follow any of the Fae folk to their underworld kingdom. For ancient Greek philosophers and storytellers, the world under our feet was better known. Crackpot practicing pseudoscientist in his basement, he was a serious scientist trying to explain a natural phenomena. Unfortunately, science hadn't caught up with his ideas yet. While he might have inadvertently given some serious credence to a theory that would blow up in popularity 200 years later and is still going strong, I doubt that was his intention. With the equipment and knowledge we have today, I'm sure Halley would have come up with a different theory. You know, no doubt, because he's mega smart. He's Edmund Halley. He's discovered comets and shit. He's big brain. Agartha and Shambhala. A major influence on the story of Agartha, as we know it today, is Buddhism in Tibet. Now, I don't practice Buddhism, and I was limited to Western articles, all in English, for my information. Considering all the misinformation out there, finding the actual truth was quite difficult. So, if I got it wrong, I apologize. I also have to apologize. I'll admit to something. From Agartha and Shambhala, the start of this little section.
Alright, I'm gonna have to change it. Just
Thank you.
I don't
I'm over
feel
this dude.
guy. Yeah, it's not giving me the vibes, man.
Yeah, I want to
Let's
know.
see.
Nah, keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep it going. They're pretty cool. The Mile Higher,
Yeah,
but
Agathar or
see. I want something to tickle me. That was not tickling me. Do you trust like those history ones? The History Channel ones?
That's why you gotta watch so many just to see different angles or research that was put in, or if one contradicts the other, or if they coincide and talk about the same thing. Like that's why you nowadays you just have to do so much research and so much reading and watching videos and watching
what was
videos that
that
are
one?
biased and this one.
Oh no. Yeah.
Which
It was
one?
that one, but
This
never
one?
mind. Yeah, it was
No,
that one.
that's
but never
negative.
mind. What's that?
The earth may be hollow, journey inside.
Yeah, let's see what that's about. We'll give him a chance. Dude has a soul patch.
Welcome to The Conspiracy Show. My name is Richard Serrett. As a child, one of my favorite books was A Journey into the Interior of the Earth by Jules Verne. The story involves a professor who leads his nephew and a hired guide down a volcano in Iceland to the center of the Earth. On this episode of The Conspiracy Show, we're going to meet an engineer and physicist and organizer of the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition. He intends to rent a Russian nuclear icebreaker and lead a team of scientists to a remote section of the Arctic Ocean, where they hope to discover an inner passage into our hollow Earth. Although the hollow Earth theory has been dismissed by most mainstream scientists, the 18th century British astronomer Edward Halley of Halley's Comet fame believed the Earth is hollow and might support life. In some mystical traditions, it's believed that ascended masters of esoteric wisdom inhabited subterranean caverns inside the hollow Earth.
Celebrate your home with Lamps Plus. Home is your ultimate comfort.
We'll also meet an historian who also believes the Earth is hollow and that it may in fact be inhabited by an advanced race of beings. And of course, we'll speak to a skeptic who insists the hollow Earth theory is simply bad science. Me? It's time.
There was at least two gunmen, one response train.
Many scientists, including the Japanese, believe that it's probably one of the most ancient myths on the planet, that Earths form as hollow spheres, not as solid balls. One thing I do know as a scientist, if there is a void there, there will be life.
Homie said we're gonna record this shot until I get it right.
Yeah, it took 20 takes.
20 takes.
Maybe more.
Get that turn real good. Boom, boom, boom.
Even had this hat on
Yeah,
that way.
his hat probably fell off a few times. That's why. Oh, hold on. Goddamn train. I don't know if you guys hear it in the background, but we got a train coming by. All right.
It's just me.
Brooks, who first theorized that the Earth is hollow?
I identify
That's
as
a
a
good
train.
question. I think anciently, Plato,
Commercial
some
train
of the
or,
early Greek
cargo
writers mentioned legends of a hollow Earth.
Bullet
In some of the
train.
ancient Egyptian writings, some of the race escaped into the Earth. Of course, there are
That's
legends
his book,
from the
boy.
Maya who were constantly searching for openings into the inner Earth. They believed that life force came out of the Earth. I think scientifically and quasi-modern times, it would have to be Edmund Halley. He was the first one that really created hollow Earth theory. The interesting thing I found is that nobody's ever been. Nobody's actually sailed to the Arctic looking for that opening. Those waters have been covered with ice since the Earth cooled, and in 2007 they opened for the first time.
I've come up with substantial evidence from Scripture, from...
Did you say 2007? 2017.
his
time.
I've come up
to the Arctic looking for that opening. Those waters have been covered with ice since the Earth cooled, and in 2007 they opened for the first time.
I've come up
That's
with
actually pretty
substantial evidence from Scripture,
normal.
from history,
Yeah,
from
you're
science,
right. It's gonna happen again.
that our Earth
sometime.
is indeed hollow.
It's just
A matter of time.
It's just Mother Earth going through a phase.
Yeah.
Everyone goes through phases. The Earth
Hopefully
goes through
we're not
phases.
on the wrong end of that.
Sorry, got distracted at each.
We know from the scriptures that hell, the location of hell. We know from the
I'm gonna go ahead and look for that book, World Top Secret or Our Earth is Hollow.
We know from the scriptures that hell, the location of hell, where the devil and his angels live, is down. But we also find out where heaven is. In Ephesians chapter 4, it says, before Christ ascended into heaven after his resurrection, he first ascended into the lower parts of the earth. The location of paradise, where Christ went to heaven at death, was in the heart of the earth.
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And if you're going to claim that there are animals and plants and things living inside of our planet, there's definitely a need for some extraordinary evidence there.
Sir Edmund Halley was a pretty famous astronomer, member of the, I believe, the Royal Academy of Scientists in Britain. How could he have been so wrong?
Edmund Halley was a fantastically intelligent guy, and using the technology that he had, he discovered a comet. And the fact that he was able to do that and give us the information that he was able to give us is extraordinary. But that doesn't mean that everything that he says was right.
Give me the best geological evidence that the Earth is, as you believe, hollow.
Well, I think the best geological evidence is going to be seismological. The USGS tied all their listening posts on the Earth together as one system. Now, when there's a heavy earthquake on one side of the planet, they're picked up with other listening stations around the planet, and we kind of take a CAT scan of the Earth. Washington University studied 600,000 of these under the direction of Dr. Y. Sessions, and they discovered the damping waves from another ocean underneath the Atlantic Ocean, underneath the crust.
It's really interesting to think, well, what if the Earth were hollow? But what we can do as scientists is say, if the Earth was hollow, what kind of evidence would we expect to see?
We've got these CAT scans of the Earth that reveal a void inside the planet.
A lot of the stuff that is quoted as evidence out there either isn't scientific or is simply incorrect.
But for both types of waves, seismic waves, there is a place on the opposite side of the Earth from the epicenter where there is a shadow zone.
We do know that the Earth contains iron and nickel in very high densities. And we know this by looking at those seismic radio waves and how they're deflected.
Well, scientists claim it's because S waves cannot go through molten lava, but the P waves should be able to go through it. This barrier inside the Earth is actually the hollow, which the seismic waves cannot go through.
We do know the Ross gull, which is a very small, dainty little seagull that my great-great-grandfather named. It flies north in the wintertime. It's not built for 80 below weather, so it finds someplace warm north to spend the winter.
Northern British Columbia is more than a
Bird
place.
goes north for the winter. Say what?
It's a portal.
The one bird that doesn't go south?
Yeah. Follow the bird.
Let's suspend disbelief for a moment and imagine that if the Earth stayed like
Have, of course, and in that.
Crystal, probably the planet with
Nothing that, like, as far as energy supply from that sun.
Inside the planet, we probably don't have a fusion source of light like we have here. It's probably a very hot iron core, like a one solid iron crystal. And if that's so, and it's anywhere around 5,000 degrees, it's probably glowing white hot. And if it's glowing white hot, it's a source of light.
So is it like a reverse Earth? Like how they're explaining it, if the sun is in the middle, then I see the world like flipped. You get me?
It's a sphere,
but it's an inner
inside
sphere.
a bigger sphere. So the bigger sphere is
but I think it's flipped. Like we share the same ground. Like we're standing, but it's like a mirror.
So for
version.
them,
But to them, it doesn't. They don't see the full sphere, because it's huge. They see the sun.
Yeah, that's.
Do you get me?
Yeah.
Because how that picture had it, is how.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I don't know why I thought that was hot.
Well, their land is down. This is supposed to be ocean.
But to me, it makes sense if it was mirrored. You get me? That's how it would make sense for there to be a sun. The sun is the center of the earth, of our earth, of every earth. You get me?
Yeah. Got it.
Like we have here. It's probably a very hot iron core, like a one solid iron crystal. And if that's so, and it's anywhere around 5,000 degrees, it's probably glowing white hot. And if it's glowing white hot, it's a source of light.
The inner sun they estimate to be about 600 miles in diameter. It generates electromagnetic energy, and it comes out in the form of light and heat that gives life and life to us and the people inside the Earth.
The gravitational pull of something that was massive enough to, and I'm not talking massive as far as size, but massive even as far as density, that it would have such a huge gravitational pull that things existing within that core would simply be sucked into it.
Now, I did a calculation on the inner sun, and it only consists of about 0.099% of the weight of the Earth. So the inner sun having such a small mass, it doesn't exert hardly any gravitational interaction.
Once you get up to the North Pole, what do you expect to find?
We do know the Ross gull, which is a very small, dainty little seagull that my great-great-grandfather named. It flies north in the wintertime. It's not built for 80 below weather. So it finds someplace warm north to spend the winter. I spoke to the leading ornithologist in Sweden on this bird. They have no clue where this bird goes.
Well, that might be an anomaly, but that doesn't necessarily lead you to believe that the Earth is hollow. And of course, as scientists, we have to look at Occam's razor, because the most simple explanation is most likely the right one.
Every few years, there is a zoological or an oceanographic expedition, and they sample sea rays because these have a tendency to show up new species every now and then. Normally, they'll see 5, 10, maybe 20 new species. After the 2007 ice shelf broke off, they did their routine sampling, 1,500 new species of rays. There is no way that these kinds of rays could evolve in that short amount of time. They had to come from another sea somewhere.
The interesting thing about the discovery of any new species is that our Earth is a vast place. And there are species that are discovered every day. There are thousands of species that will go extinct before we ever find them. Our ability to find new species increases every day. And if you're going to find thousands of new species, the ocean is the place to be. And that's where those new species that he is referring to are coming from.
According to the legends, what do you expect to find inside the interior of the Earth?
There will be life. It might be microbial, it might be more complex, like a fish or a bird, and then again, it may be civilized.
The story of the lost Vikings that colonized Greenland for about 1,000 years and just disappeared. Admiral Perry in 1909, he knew Eskimo language, and he asked them, where did these lost Viking colonists go? They said that, well, the hunting party came from the north one winter and said that they had found a paradise. And so they all just packed up their bags, Eskimo said, and just traipsed off across the ice towards the north and never came back. Well, he was presently sighted by flying saucer type craft that took control of his airplane.
Striking the planet 60 million years ago, and they are actually alive, living inside the hollow Earth?
I think it's possible. When you look at, for instance, woolly mammoth migration around the Siberian desert, you'll see a ring of mammoth bones and tusks and everything about one stomach's worth of distance from a certain spot. This certain spot happens to be very close to where we're going. We haven't seen any dinosaurs in that ring, but we have seen woolly mammoths, lots of them, thousands of them.
The mammoths that have also been trotted out as this mammoth couldn't possibly have been preserved in the ice, and it had to have been recently frozen. And that is very easy on a histological perspective to prove wrong because of the damage done to the cells over the flash freezing and slow freezing processes. And so you can look at the cellular level and tell exactly how long that mammoth has been frozen in the ice.
Tell me about Admiral Byrd's flight over the Antarctic.
Admiral Byrd is an aviation hero, no question about it. Evidently, he did discover something, but officially he could not report on that. The rumors that came out, and rumors of rumors, and rumors of diaries, lush green forests with liquid water and woolly mammoths, and where certainly none should have been. What's the truth? It's difficult to tell. That's one of the reasons why we want to do this expedition. Let's prove or disprove the biggest myth in human history.
What if they went so
There's
far
an
up north
account
they
that
hit
he
Brazil?
flew past the ice, came to a continent covered with less vegetation, even saw a mammoth wandering on the terrain below. Well, he was presently sighted by flying saucer type craft that took control of his airplane and landed near an inner Earth city. He was taken before the government officials of the inner world.
Yeah, if you go all the way around.
They gave him a message to take back to Washington. And they did not approve of our use of nuclear weapons. We had just blown up a couple of cities at the end of World War II. So they put him back in the air. He took the message to Washington, but they told him they didn't want him telling his story to anybody, but he couldn't keep his mouth shut. We've found several people that have claimed that they talked to him and he told them what happened.
Are there eyewitness accounts, or is there anecdotal evidence to suggest that UFOs are coming out of these openings?
Yes, lots of eyewitness reports, even official ones, military ones. We've interviewed radio operators for the Navy that received official messages from ships at sea that talked about large silver ships coming up out of the water. In fact, they're so common they're called USOs, undersea objects, instead of unidentified flying objects. So they're actually more plentiful than ones that fly in the air.
It's actually unidentified submerged objects.
Yeah, I believe that the lost tribes of Israel actually did migrate to the Hollow Earth. They have been living there for 2,500 years, so they have become much more advanced scientifically than us. I believe that they have what we've seen flying around the Earth, the flying saucer type craft that people have seen all over the Earth.
Here's another different person saying that the UFOs are actually inner Earth people flying around, and not actual aliens. I thought the other guy we were watching also said that.
No, I think it was this one.
No, it was the other guy. The other guy said it was Atlanteans.
Now, if Brooks Agnew goes to the North Pole and finds a big hole there.
When we look at satellite images of the Earth, and more specifically of the Arctic or the North Pole region, what do we see? Why can't we see that opening if it's there?
Well, that's one of the most puzzling questions that I still don't have an answer to. For one thing, in 2006, there was a new rule passed called the Data Denial Act. This prohibited real-time imagery of the Earth above the 60th parallel. So you cannot find any publicly available satellite images of the North Pole. They're just not available. You can't find them anywhere. They're all classified. The ones that we were able to get our hands on, because of the way satellites stitch the photographs together, they're stitched at the poles. So what you see is a nice round dark spot at the North Pole where all these pictures are stitched together, but that part's left out. The other images, that even oblique angles that we were able to get, are all covered in clouds. So there are just no images of this region of the Earth from the air.
Is that by design, do you think? Is somebody somewhere trying to hide the fact that there is an opening to the inner Earth?
Well, I really don't know the answer to that. I just know that it's not available. So it raises all kinds of questions, like, is somebody trying to keep it secret? Well, if they are, they're doing a really good job.
And what are you trying to do? How are you going to get there? Who's coming with you?
That's a very good question. There are only 2 civilian ships on Earth that can make this expedition. Both of them are nuclear powered. They belong to the Russians. They used to belong to the Soviets. They're 23,000 tons, about 450 feet long. There's a helicopter on them. So they're well outfitted, so we can get some very serious, credible measurements.
a nuclear run ship. It means it uses nuclear energy. That's insane.
He doesn't even have a boat yet, and he's planning an expedition.
Well, he has to rent the boat from the Russians. The Russians are the only ones that have the boats to be able to make it through the ice up that far.
And samples during this 15-day expedition.
Yeah, the Russian nuclear icebreaker is called.
I'm gonna need to see if there's a part 2 on this. Did he come back?
You gotta hit up Hezbollah. Hey, Hezbollah.
That's my boy. That's my boy.
Get me on the ship.
The Yamal, it means end of Earth. And there is a peninsula up there in the Russian Arctic. It's called Yamal, too.
It's not actually the North Pole. The North Pole's been sailed every year for 30 years. It's off from the North Pole several hundred miles. This is in a region that's never been sailed before. It's between the magnetic North Pole and the actual North Pole. The waters are reported to be the roughest on the planet, so we're talking 10-story seas. This is not going to be a pleasure cruise by any stretch of the imagination. We'll be breaking ice for 8 days to get there, so it's not an easy place to get to.
Are you personally planning on going into the interior of the Earth?
That's a really good question.
doesn't want to say
I'm going to
yes.
be on the helicopter that flies over
Just
the
say yes,
opening, and
bro.
we'll play
Just
it by
do it.
ear.
Just be like, I want.
I do
yes,
plan
it's
to
a dream of
return
mine.
and live to tell about it.
I applaud that he's willing to actually go out and look for evidence to support his claim. And that's what a good scientist is all about. And if he wants to go up there and see if there's a hole there, more power to him. That's what it's going to take to convince.
I feel like that's what Elon Musk does.
Take charge and just do it.
Just do it. He has the power to do it. It's like, fuck it, I can and I will.
It's people like me and other scientists that there is a hole in the Earth and that the Earth is hollow.
What do you need in order to push this over the top and to make this expedition happen?
We need to finance the deposit on the ship, which is roughly half the money, about $1 million. Once that's done, we'll make a global announcement that the expedition is officially on, and at that point, Richard, there's more people know about the Hollow Earth than knew about Middle Earth before the movies came out. We have tens of millions of enthusiasts all around the world that are ready to come to the support of this expedition once it becomes a reality.
So do you expect to find some sort of a large opening big enough that you could actually sail a nuclear vessel through?
We don't really know how big this opening is. It could be as much as 100 miles across. It could be as small as 20 miles across. In any case, when you're at sea, you only get about 8 or 9 miles of view. Then the curvature of the Earth takes over. So this could have been sailed by lots of times and never seen. I did speak to some retired Navy admirals, and they told me there is an anomaly at sea. They call it the Oceanic Depression. It's a place where 2 ships can be sailing side by side, and one will just sail out of view for sometimes a day at a time and then come back up. These are places where sea level is not sea level. It's kind of concave. Now, their theory is that these are spots on the Earth that the gravitational field is more intense, so it pulls the water down. And I proposed a different theory, which got them thinking. What if these are areas on the Earth where the gravity is actually lower than it is everywhere else, and the outside gravity pulls the water away? That would fit Hollow Earth theory, that the gravity is centered in the crust, not in the core so much. And that would mean that the water could get pulled away from an opening and you could actually sail right into it and never know. Because if it was 100 miles across, you'd never see the curvature.
Now, if Brooks Agnew goes to the North Pole and finds a big hole there and comes back with evidence, then we have to re-examine it.
If the North Pole Inner Earth Expedition finds an opening into our Hollow Earth, what then? What if they find life? Not mere microbial life, but mammalian. How about woolly mammoths or other species thought to be long extinct? What if they find advanced human civilizations? What then?
I want to go.
Not only will we have to rewrite many of our textbooks,
before we find
we'll
them,
have to
honestly.
rethink just about everything we think we know about who we are and where we came from. After speaking with Brooks Agnew, I couldn't help but think of the words of Jules Verne himself. Was I to believe him in earnest in this intention to penetrate to the center of this massive globe? Had I been listening to the mad speculations of a lunatic? or to the scientific conclusions of a lofty genius? And now, I'd like to know what you think. You can contact me here at The Conspiracy Show through our website, www.theconspiracyshow.com. In the meantime,
Get him on the phone. Where are we at?
Hey, shave your patch, bro.
Oh man. So that was 2 videos. We learned a lot. The first video was a little bit slow. He was reading off storybook or reading a story, and the second one was a little bit more informational because we actually had some scientifical people on the matter, on the subject, and giving their 2 point of views. One was biased, that nothing exists under the Earth's crust, and the other one did not want to say that he truly believed, but he did believe that there is a hole to inner Earth and there's something else there. So
yeah, it was pretty interesting. A lot of yapping from that second video. A few things that did spark my interest. But yeah, I definitely got my brain rolling on. I'm still on how the sun is. If there's a sun, it would be the center, and then the crust is mirrored.
Yeah, that's another thing we should take a look at.
Him saying about the water being he said something about there being low gravity on the crust, so the water pulls in.
No, he's saying that if there's an inner Earth, the crust that goes around the Earth is only what is holding the gravitational pull. So that means that at the point where the hole interjects,
because it's so low,
because it's being pulled out because of the gravity, that's where the connection or the entrance.
I guess that would make sense for pressure also, like pressure pulls.
So
like a vacuum.
Yeah, so the water's getting pulled side outwards from where the entrance to the Middle Earth is, because of the gap of how it bends in. Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to go ahead and have another episode, do a second episode of Inner Earth, and see what else we can find out. Because, like I said, they were talking about mammoths and giants and other civilizations. Even the Vikings, they're saying a whole group of Vikings went and disappeared into Middle Earth and never seen. So
yeah, he said the other dude said the lost tribes of Israel.
Oh yeah, and that too, the lost tribes of Israel.
That's what he brought up.
That they also, oh man, that's interesting. Yeah, so a lot of people, a lot of cultures and ancient cultures and civilizations have always spoken about Inner Earth and Inner Earth people and stuff. So there's many theories, many stories, many legends, and many myths. But we're gonna have to definitely come back to this and check it out again and see what else we can come up with and find out, because it's highly interesting.
Yeah. Noting it down as we speak.
And this will be it, you guys. Number 6 show on out. And this is us saying goodbye to the next one. We'll be back most likely Tuesday or Wednesday. Trying to get a set schedule for it. That way we can go ahead and keep it consistent. There we go. So you guys all have a good night. Take it easy. Sleep well. We'll see you till next time.
A Modern Day Odyssey podcast.